Thanks for tuning in to our seller interview series. Up today, we've got a Kindle publishing business for sale created in January 2016. This business makes $2,600 per month in net profit, and the listing number for this business is 40970. Now, we do these interviews to give potential buyers more information about both the seller and the businesses they're looking to purchase. We hope these insights are helpful for you in making a buying decision. We've got the seller with us today to go through the business and cover everything from niche selection to traffic and monetization. Thanks for coming on, Stephen.
Hi, Gregory. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Before we dive into the first questions, I just want to give a quick summary of the business for everyone out there listening in. As I already mentioned, it was built in January 2016, has a monthly revenue of $2,600 per month, and zero expenses currently for, again, $2,600 per month for net profit. And that is over an 8-month average. Included with the sale of this business is the change of all the login/owner details for the KDP website, as well as the finished drafts, documents, and book covers. With that said, Stephen, can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Yeah, so I guess I'm relatively new to, the whole online business sector. Long story short, I was made redundant from my job in a factory towards the end of 2015. So I just basically needed to make money online and make it pretty fast, So I just started researching into different forms of, making money online. And I guess the Kindle account was just one that took out for me simply because, there was no real upfront investment, needed to make a start. So from there, I started the account in January 2016. And I guess it was kind of a slow process, maybe for first maybe 2 months, but it snowballed faster than I could have ever have hoped for, to be honest with you. So I guess from opening it in January, like by the time we were into midsummer, I mean, I was doing that business full time. I mean, it was my money earner 100%, So
That's awesome. That's really cool. You were in a kind of a tough situation. I'm assuming you must have grounded out some pretty long hours when you were starting off with this, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I guess it's important just to mention that, like, I would have had, no, we'll say, mentors or anybody I knew absolutely nobody who was making money online. So, like, the whole, e-commerce and digital nomad scene, everything was completely new to me at the time.
That's awesome, man. That's a really cool story. It kind of reminds me of what I'm assuming you must have felt when you started seeing the checks like actually coming in and growing and stuff. I remember when I first began online, I wrote this little eZine article and it's a little affiliate product, and I got an email like a week or two after I wrote it saying how to do a money dance. You just made some money. I made like $500 from this article I wrote. Like, what? Crazy.
Yeah, it's a pretty weird feeling, like earning that first dollar online,
Yeah, definitely. And then you never go back afterwards. You can't.
Sure, for sure, yeah.
So why did you come up with the idea for Kindle? Like everything that's out there, why was it the Kindle publishing business that really caught your fancy?
I suppose just personally, I've always had an interest in books and writing to a certain extent. And I suppose I have always been, artistic and creative, I guess. I just never even considered that I could use, my creative side or artistic side to actually make money. So, I mean, I guess that was something that appealed to me about Kindle, as opposed to, we'll say, like the likes of FBA, which I had for sure looked into FBA as well, but I felt like this was just more in tune with what I was about.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that. So for someone that isn't familiar with this style of business, with a Kindle publishing business, could you just briefly describe how you're making money from this?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, to break it down, it's basically Amazon's KDP self-publishing platform. So, I mean, you have two choices. You can create content yourself, or you can outsource it quite easily on many platforms online. You upload the content yourself. And I guess the great thing about Amazon KDP is, let's just say from one, piece of content, like one ebook, you can create many streams of revenue. For instance, you get revenue from the sale of your ebook. You can turn that ebook quite easily into a paperback version, which will make extra sales. You can turn that ebook also into an audio version through ACX, which will bring in more revenue. And you will also get a small bit of money, when people borrow that ebook from Amazon through their lending program, will also make some money that way. So essentially, you have 4 streams of income from one product, which is quite amazing in my mind.
So I'm sure we'll get into this more later, but are you exploring that with your books as well? So you like say physical books through something like CreateSpace as well?
Yeah, like I guess what originally started out as a Kindle business has now definitely CreateSpace just overtook my Kindle sales.
Really?
Yeah, in a very short length of time. I think I might say it on the listing, but the vast majority of the money made in this business every month is through CreateSpace. I would put it at an estimate of maybe perhaps it would be almost as high as 75% being coming from CreateSpace and the rest from KDP.
Impressive. Very cool. Usually the CreateSpace, is, I know your books would benefit more from CreateSpace than say the ebook side of things, but usually the CreateSpace is a smaller stream, so that's super interesting. Yeah. So with this business built up, and I'm assuming it's fairly minimal work to manage once the content is actually out there ready for people to buy, why are you selling the business? Why not just keep growing it bigger?
So I guess there's a few reasons. I guess first and foremost, I'm after returning to work full time in quality control, which was always what I had planned to return to do. I have also bought a home which needs a ton of renovations.
Know that pain.
Yeah, so I need a lump sum. And I guess thirdly, I failed to mention that in that time that I'm out of work, I set up a t-shirt business, which I guess it requires a lot more man hours than the publishing account does. So, all my time and energy is going to go into that, and it has done for the past 6 months, because obviously that's a lot more hands-on. Yeah, I guess it's time to move on. I just wouldn't have the time, to put into it to bring it to the next level, which is a shame, because, that account is in, great high standing with Amazon, and it's bringing quite a lot of money, and those books have a lot of potential, but we can talk about that later, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. When you first started this business, what did it look like for you in those first few weeks and months?
Yeah, so I guess I started off, and I literally wrote my first the first 6 books that went up in the account. I wrote them myself, which was time consuming, but I guess it was a case of I didn't really know any better at the time, So I wrote those books and I uploaded them to KDP for sale in ebook form. It actually took quite a few months for me to even release my first book in CreateSpace. I didn't put my first book in CreateSpace until April, which was 4 months later. And then from CX, I remember being quite amazed, that you could bring in so many different revenue streams from literally the one piece of content.
Yeah, there's a guy, I think his name's Dean Wesley Smith, because I'm a fiction writer myself. It's a hobby, so I'm always curious about the business of fiction, and stories and ebooks and stuff like that. But he calls it the magic bakery, right? You have the pie, and then you split the pie into these endless pieces.
Absolutely, yeah. There really is, no limit with this kind of a business. The sky is the limit, like.
Yes. What is something you learned from doing this business? Something that really stuck out with you that just worked? Maybe something you're going to apply to your t-shirt business or perhaps other projects.
Sorry, could you repeat that question, please?
Yeah. Is there anything you learned from this business that worked really well for you that you might apply to, say, your t-shirt business or some other project?
I guess there are quite a number of things. I guess if I was just to pick one thing that really I learned from this business that stood out, I guess I never really understood, that people could actually make money passively. And this business is just so passive. It's crazy. I haven't really, done very minimal work to it over the past 6 months, and it's like the checks just keep coming in at the end of every month. I guess I never would have even, realized that you could actually purchase a business that would be so, so completely passive,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it was quite the realization for you.
Big time.
Is there anything you did with this business that didn't work?
For sure, yeah. I guess, as I said, that I was completely new to all things, e-commerce related and online marketing, everything, so I didn't realize for, quite some time that, a lot of the work that I was doing could actually be outsourced. So I guess, things like working with VAs and ghostwriters and things like that, I guess that was the biggest learning curve for me, that, I could, cut down on man hours, outsource some small, pieces of the running of the business, which was great, because the costs for outsourcing these things are quite minimal, if you were to compare them to, spending your own time, to do these tasks.
Yeah, definitely. So you're actually outsourcing the creation of these books now towards the end of your process here.
I guess what I have outsourced, I've done like 90% of the work in this business myself, but as I said, I was quite a few months into it before I even realized that these things could be outsourced. But as it stands, what I have outsourced would be certainly some of the covers and also some of the low content books. I suppose not just to go into the nitty gritty of it, but maybe the adult coloring books, designs for those would have been all outsourced for obvious reasons, they would have been quite time consuming and things like that,
Right. How many books do you have for sale right now?
So yeah, I guess, I always get a surprise reaction when I tell people this. With the selling of this account, there's actually 204 books
Wow,
in the account.
that's quite a lot.
Absolutely. I guess the one thing I can say in relation to that, and something that does surprise people, is that, I guess over 50% of these would be considered low content books. And that's not to say that they're no content books, they're simply low content books. And, people are quite happy with them. They've got very good reviews on the Amazon website. I suppose for an example, journals, adult coloring books, and so on and so forth.
Right, yeah, of course. Now, when you were producing these books, because right now your expenses are zero, so I'm assuming right now you're not producing anything, right?
I guess I would have uploaded a few over the last few months, but I would have done all the work myself, just simply, just to keep the account tipping over and keeping adding to it. I think the last thing any potential buyers want is to buy a business that has just been, a sitting duck for 6 months, so I always feel it's best, increase the value of any business right up until the last point of the sale.
Yeah, definitely. So how often were you uploading these books? And also, do you have a kind of system on what helps guide you and which kind of book you're going to create?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we could talk all night about how do you find profitable niches. There's actually a very simple formula for it that has worked extremely well for me in this business. So, I would for sure pass that information on to any potential buyer in the future. It can be time consuming, but it can be easily outsourced to any virtual assistant would be more than capable of doing that research for you. I guess that's the one thing I found, that the first maybe month or two, I found, hey, I'm going to self-publish a book, and everyone's going to buy it. I guess after the first few weeks, I realized that no, you really do have to do your research. You have to find out what people are searching for, Yeah, so I guess, yeah.
So for the traffic that are coming to your listings, I'm assuming it's all Amazon organic traffic, or are you doing
Yeah.
any kind of other promotion at all?
No, I tell you, that's the crazy thing, that all my sales are natural traffic from Amazon. I don't spend cent on PPC or any other form of, I don't do email marketing. I don't do social media. I guess, it's kind of a difficult situation for me because I would love to grow this business further, but I just really don't have the time to go into those things. And to be fair, I wouldn't have a huge amount of experience in PPC or email marketing, So, but again, there are things that can be outsourced. But yeah, like as I said, that's the crazy thing about this business, that those figures are purely, from natural traffic on Amazon. So you can only imagine, if a potential buyer would, could use PPC or social media or Facebook ads, to really blow this out of the park.
How stable are the earnings? Is there any kind of seasonality you've seen over this last year and a half or so?
Yeah, I guess. They say 80% of the books sold on Amazon are sold in Q4.
Makes sense.
I found that really to be the case. The minute September comes, there's just a notable increase, as the weeks go on further and further into Q4 and closer to December. Those numbers just keep rising week on week, which is great. And as I said, it's natural traffic, so don't have any costs like PPC or that.
You said over 200 novels, right? Or not novels, but 200 books.
Yeah, 204.
Do you find that like a few of the books that earn the lion's share of the income, or does it
For sure.
spread out pretty? Oh, okay. So a few of them are the like big winners.
Yeah, I guess, as I said, what you have to remember that I didn't, really do my research properly, at the very beginning, like any person starting a new business. So I guess when I started getting smart about things is when things really took a turn. So I guess out of the 204 books that are there at the moment, there are approximately, if I was to put a number on it, 100 of them I would consider steady sellers month on month. And again, like for any potential buyer, I mean, that other 100 books, I mean, for sure, they can be rebranded, repackaged, renamed. Even small things like changing the keywords can really increase sales, or even introducing things like bundles. I mean, that's the thing, like, the potential, for this Amazon KDP business is, it really is huge.
Speaking of potential, let's pretend that you're going to keep this business hypothetically and you're going to grow it. What would be the least risky path you'd focus on to grow this business?
I guess the less risky path would be to work with the content that is already there. And I guess for sure offering bundles, maybe rebranding certain books that aren't performing too well. I guess that's the great thing as well about Amazon KDP. I mean, it's not as if your book is just made once and it's a sitting duck. I mean, you can rebrand it, you can repackage it. Like, it's like a living object. You can change it, you can change the cover, you can change the inside. You can literally do anything you want. At any stage. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I guess that's what I would do. I would try and offer bundles and rebrand the books that aren't selling, and maybe do some proper research on keyword optimization and SEO and things like that. And I would imagine that even just by doing that alone would make a significant increase to, every month's profit.
If you were incredibly risky and decided to throw caution to the wind and grow this style of business as fast as humanly possible, what is it that you would do?
I'm not sure about throwing caution to the wind, but I can tell you what needs to be done with this account to bring in quite a lot of money. For someone in the know, it would be relatively simple to do. So yeah, so that would be basically to just 3 or 4 different steps, and that would be to introduce, some form of pay-per-click advertising, whereas that's using Amazon's AMS marketing service or Facebook ads, whatever the case may be. Also, outsourcing content creation to virtual assistants would also be a huge thing, and outsourcing that research that I was talking about earlier, to virtual assistants, so that you would be sure that the content that has been created is going to sell the day after that first book goes for sale online. Um, and also, just one thing I wanted to touch on as well is that these books they could even be approached to traditional book publishers who have actually already shown interest in 2 books in this KDP account. So, as I said, the sky's the limit.
Definitely.
With the purchase of this account, you're not just buying, a passive business that will bring in money every month. I think what people might forget is that they're also buying, literally all of the content that is for sale with this business, so all the original drafts, the final drafts, the covers. I mean, that's quite a lot of content for any potential buyers.
Yeah, all the intellectual property is being sold to them. So definitely. Do you see any risk in this business that a buyer should be aware of? Is there anything that stands out to you?
I think there's risks in every business. I think one of the reasons that I went into Amazon KDP to begin with was because it was as low risk as I could, imagine. I mean, as I said, you can start this business, without pouring any further money into it. I mean, Amazon KDP has been growing for the last, 5 years. I mean, it just seems to be, growing every year on year. So I don't foresee this slowing down at any point in the future. And I guess as well, people still buy paperback books, and it's surprising that, I don't think in the future that people are going to stop buying paperback books. I think that, in matter of fact, I think people are just going to get, fed up of using tablets and all this digital content. I was actually very, very surprised that, 70 to 80% of my earnings are coming from paperback sales. So yeah, there's huge potential here, and I would imagine that the risk is quite minimal.
Yeah, obviously, the elephant in the room would be KDB's policies and create space policies, but as you mentioned, it's unlikely concern at this point from what we've seen.
Absolutely. I mean, I haven't had any issues with Amazon, since I started this business. They have been extremely helpful to any questions that I've had with them. And I think it's like everything else, if you're willing to follow the rules. And I mean, I think people forget as well, some people in this business, is that, Amazon are there to help you, I mean, they have, helplines. You can contact people 24 hours a day if you have any questions. And maybe if you're doing something that you're not sure if this is right, or, is this against Amazon's policies? They're to answer those questions for you. So, there's absolutely nothing to be worried about. You just need to get confirmation from them that you're doing it is okay with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So the work that you're doing right now, can you describe what you're doing on maybe a weekly or monthly basis to maintain the business as is?
Yeah, I guess the important thing to say is that for the past 6 months, I have done, very minimal work in this business. If I was to put a time figure on it, I would say approximately 4 hours per week.
Oh, 4 hours per week?
Yeah, that 4 hours a week would have been spent, I suppose, half researching profitable niches and the other half creating content. And again, when I say creating content, I mean for low content books, not full content books, obviously, because obviously you would need a lot more than a few hours to create, a high content book. But, as I said, what I've concentrated on in the past few months has been adult coloring books and journals, and they seem to be selling like hotcakes, so yeah.
When you say low content book versus high content book, I believe I know what you mean, but for our audience that might not be familiar, could you just describe the difference?
Yeah, there are lots of examples, I guess. A high content book would be perhaps, a fiction or non-fiction novel where, there's quite a long process goes into making that one, book. And I guess a low content book, in my mind anyway, would be perhaps a journal, an adult coloring book, where you can easily, buy designs online or off designers that can be, purchased quite easily. I mean, there's loads of examples. Even what's actually quite popular at the moment, there are different types of journals for various niches, various hobbies, such as the gardening niche, etc. So, I mean, that they're low content, but believe it or not, they sell very well.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to get that out there for people who we were talking about there.
Yeah, for sure.
So before I ask you some wrap-up questions, before we move in there, is there any skills you'd suggest for a buyer to have before they purchase a business like this?
Honestly, no. I mean, as I said, from the very beginning of this business, I had no experience of making any money online. I had no experience in, using complex, programs such as Photoshop and things like that. I mean, I literally learned all this myself quite easily. I mean, I don't think there are any set skills that any potential buyer needs. And I think as well, online nowadays, it's so easy and so affordable to outsource things that you're not good at. There really is no reason for someone to say, oh, no, I can't buy that business because I can't do A, B, and C, Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, if they want to grow the business, if they don't have the skills they need to learn, but
yeah,
a lot of a business like this, for example, can be outsourced in terms of creating the content of the books and so forth. Once they know your process, that is, of course.
For sure.
Speaking of your process, are you using any kind of tools at all when it comes to doing some keyword research? You mentioned earlier that you do keyword research into certain niches. Is there a tool you're using, or are you just kind of winging it based off what you found to work?
I tell you, at the start of this business, I bought so many products that were promising me the sun, the moon, the stars. And I got caught left, right, and center. And yeah, so like after maybe 4 months, I said, right, I'm not going to buy any more of these, crummy products that are promising me things that, they never deliver on. And yeah, I just got smart about it and I started researching how other people were finding profitable niches on Amazon. And not just for KDP, but for FBA also, And yeah, basically, I mean, without giving too much away, I found two strategies. And I mean, they both work extremely well. They cost absolutely nothing, only your time. And yeah, I mean, the return you get, it's worth putting in that extra bit of research because your book is going to sell. Whereas, there's nothing worse than just, stabbing in the dark and hoping for the best,
Absolutely.
So yeah, I guess that answers your question, I think.
Moving to some wrap-up questions here. Would you be willing to sign a non-compete with a buyer?
Absolutely.
And how much support would you be willing to offer that buyer?
So I guess 30 days, email or Skype support, I think that's more than enough for the handover,
Very fair. Now, obviously, the best case scenario here for you and for Empire Flippers is someone comes in and buys this business upfront for full list price. Would you at all be open to someone, say, they put 80% down and then 20% upon reaching a certain training period, maybe after the 30-day training period, or perhaps after a few months of some sort of earnout? Would you be comfortable or open to that?
Absolutely, 100%.
Excellent. I have one last question to ask you, Stephen. Before I do, I just want to give a quick summary of the business again for everyone listening in. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the business was built in January 2016, has a monthly revenue of $2,600 per month, zero expenses, so the net profit is also $2,600 per month, and that is calculated over an 8-month average. Included with the sale of this business is the change of the login/owner details on the KDP website, as well as all the finished drafts, documents, and book covers. So, Stephen, my final question for you is, what is your best pitch in 30 seconds or less on why someone should purchase this business?
Yeah, so I guess, to be frankly, there's not many businesses that you can buy which bring in an estimated $2,600 passively and consistently each month. I guess the big deal with this business, that in its current state, it is absolutely completely passive. I mean, these books bring in royalties each month without fail. So, I mean, if you were to do nothing, you would have quite a good business that brings in, a steady revenue each month. And I guess for the more hands-on buyer, there's massive potential to grow this business. I mean, pay-per-click advertising, social media, adding more content, outsourcing content creation and outsourcing research to virtual assistants are just some of the potential ways. I mean, as I said, heck, you could even approach little book publishers with some of the books that are doing, exceptionally well in this account. So yeah, the sky really is the limit with this account,
A lot of great ideas there, coupled with your research method. If someone wanted to scale this, I think good opportunity there as well.
Absolutely.
So for everyone out there, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want more information about this business, the link will be below this video in the actual YouTube description. That will take you to the marketplace listing. Now, if you're watching this on the listing page and you want more information, you can become a depositor today. It's super simple. All you have to do is click the button, make a deposit, and you'll be given everything you need to review this business. So, Stephen, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.